requires intentionality. So we're here to talk about just that. How do we have a good life? How do we show up intentionally in our lives? And so we're here to have this conversation. We welcome your comments and your feedback. We welcome you to like and share. We welcome you to send us a text or an email. You can reach out directly to Boston Praise Radio. They'll get the information to us. We are so excited to have your input in the conversation that we're having today. And so I want my guests to just tell you a little bit about themselves. Before they do, I want to say that Annette Hall has a really amazing project that she's working on. So I'm hoping she'll talk about that a little bit. I know that Dr. Wendy has some things she's working on as well. I hope she'll share those. And so, yes, why don't we start with Deacon Jerome and then have our guests introduce themselves?
Well, as you know, I am Deacon Jerome. I'm also not just a deacon in the church, but I'm also a licensed agent and also a housing advocate. So I would like to employ anyone that, looking to for affordable housing to contact me. And regardless of where you're at, I believe everyone deserves a place to call home. So, and with no further ado, we have to my right, Dr. Wendy Mahoney.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Dr. Wendy Mahoney coming to you from Mississippi. I am in Mississippi. It's a privilege and an opportunity to be with you today. Have a lot of wonderful things going on. I've been a mental health professional, an advocate for mental health as well as domestic violence. I currently have my own consulting business, Divine Strategies. And Divine Strategies, currently, we do executive coaching and mentoring for African American executives throughout the country. I actually am about to publish my first devotional on faith, 21 days of building your faith day by day. And I'm also affiliated with a number of ministries, but currently not only Wellspring Global Fellowship, but Toda Praise Worship Center in Jackson, Mississippi, where we are doing lots of great things to make sure that people are not just healed, delivered, but are also made whole. And so many other great things that I'm doing with a number of different organizations throughout the country, bringing about personal and professional development for advocates who are advocates working with domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. So I do a number of different things, but more than anything, I am a child of the true and the living God. And so appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, but also to share in this topic, which is near and dear to my heart. So with that, I will now turn it over to Miss Annette.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. As Pastor mentioned, my name is Annette Hall. I am a member of Global Wellspring Global Fellowship, a member of the praise team. And prior to joining Wellspring, I've been in music ministry since 1997. Various capacities on praise team, on a gospel choir, and so forth. And music's always been my passion. So Pastor Traci mentioned that I have this exciting project. The project is called The Children's Bread.
Yeah.
And I intend to the project is an album that God willing, will intend to release the full album in 2025 and early 2025. But the first song or single on that album, called The Children's Bread, will be released very, very soon on all streaming platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple, YouTube Music, TikTok, wherever you download your music from. Today, the video is available out on YouTube, and the group name or the name under which the music is called is The Remnant. So, you know, we can make that link available so that you
Yes,
can check out the
Oh, yeah.
video and
Yes,
you
absolutely.
can listen to the
absolutely.
song before it officially drops, as they say. So I'm excited about it.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I've seen the video. It's amazing. I've heard the song. I've heard many of the songs. It's an exciting project. It's a powerful project. I cannot wait to fully release it publicly at Wellspring. It's just amazing. I'm so excited for you and for those that have had the opportunity, including Deacon Jerome, to work with you on the project.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
very exciting. And that's one of the things I have to say I love about the project is that you really did bring in other, members of the congregation and give people an opportunity. Some people have never done anything like that before. Others have had some experience. The fact that you brought them in and allowed them to be a part of the project with you, regardless of their experience, to me says so much about who you are. So thank you for
Amen.
that. Thank you for giving them, including my daughter, an opportunity. I think it's awesome. So, yay, I'm so excited for all of the things that you all have going on. And I'm so grateful for you to take the time to spend with me this afternoon amongst all the things you need to do, could be doing, would be doing, but you're here with me to have this conversation. And I think it's a really important one. We are nearing Thanksgiving. It literally is a little more than a week away. Am I saying that correctly? I feel so off about this, but it is. It's a little bit more than a week away. And for a lot of people, Thanksgiving is a really exciting time. People are thinking about getting together with their family members or with friends. There's a lot of Friendsgivings that happen. And it is exciting, but it isn't exciting for everyone. And so that is the conversation that I thought we could have, the four of us today, is to really talk about Thanksgiving in particular, because it is the one holiday, even to me more than Christmas, and you all can certainly share your opinions, where we really do get focused on people being together with family, right? Christmas, sometimes people go off in their various directions, but I think when we think about Thanksgiving, more often than not, we think about it in terms of people being together with family. It's just sort of that kind of holiday. And as someone who once upon a time spent a Thanksgiving alone because I wanted to, it was so hard for everybody in my world to respect that. It was, are you okay? Should we come over? Can we come over? Are you sure? Well, just come and have dinner and then go home and be by yourself for dessert. And there was nothing wrong. It was just a decision that I made that it was my holiday, like it's everybody else's holiday. And I wanted to spend it on my couch, eating stovetop stuffing and an oven stuffer roaster that I bought from the supermarket and some sides that I made. Because as you all know, the chefing thing isn't my thing really. But it was a great Thanksgiving for me, but it was hard for a lot of other people to accept. My family had a really hard time. I have two sisters, as you all know, they had a really hard time with my decision to do that. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Have you ever spent a holiday, any holiday by yourself? What are your thoughts about it? I know that you both come from families where you have siblings. So I want to talk, all three of you do. I want to talk about all of that. What are you planning for Thanksgiving? And how, what are you thinking and feeling about it? So Dr. Wendy, you want to start us off?
Yes, well, I have spent a holiday by myself. And it was sort of by choice, because I lived away from my family for many years. For almost 20 years, I lived in Minnesota. And so my family was in Mississippi. So some of those holidays, it was, okay, do you go home? Do you try to make it happen? You go home for Thanksgiving, or do you go for Christmas? And the kids, just all of those different dynamics. And I have spent it alone, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle because the whole holiday season itself, the expectations. And I know for me, mine was more so the expectation of others, more so than, what do I really want to feel? It was always, you get together, like you stated, with family on Thanksgiving, or you should be doing something. You should be, and back then I felt like it was a press and pull, but I evolved to say, let me be thankful wherever I am and however I choose to do that. But it took some time to get there. And so being in Mississippi now, and been here back home 17 years, almost 18 now, everybody comes to my house. It's a, it's an expectation now that everybody comes to my house. We're gonna, fellowship and everything. And so actually this Thanksgiving, our entire family is coming again to my house. And so it's grown. My children have children. My nieces my nephew has a son. And so all of my mom's kids, all four of us will be in one place. And my mom stated, I want my children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren all together. So we plan to celebrate. And this time, I'd have to say it means so much more than it ever has, just because so many family members, friends, and have transitioned. Even most recently, my uncle just this past week, and just my mom's dearest friends, cousins, and different things, and so it means so much more now. And even for me, gathering with my own children and grandchildren means something different than it previously had. I know it's a big undertaking, and so I'm kind of there's a little like, okay, I got to get prepared for this. What does this feel like? What does this, those type things are going on. But in this season, just because of life and things that have transpired, I'm grateful for the opportunity and to have my mother still alive and her say, this is what I want, and us being able to fulfill something that she wants. So that's what we're going to do. But there are many years that the holidays came and I didn't always know how to feel, just because of things like I told you, expectations or, whatever. But this time, I'm looking forward to all the family coming together and celebrating, and being grateful and thankful for what God has done in all of our lives, and to have our mother still here with us.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Annette, you want to talk to us a little bit about the holiday for you?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that my grandmother, Estelle Sampson, set the tone for our entire family. You and it started with Sunday dinners, so never mind like, holidays, but especially holidays. Everybody was expected to come over. Like there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You showed up. So it set the tone for how our family gets together these days. And I I come from a big family, right? My grandmother had 9 girls and 3 boys. And then each one of them, all my aunts and uncles had at least, 4 or 5, 6 kids. So the family time, especially holidays, was just the house full of love, laughter, fights, and a lot of food, a lot of good food. My grandmother was a fantastic cook. So that we took that legacy that my grandmother established and kept it alive even after she passed away. You know, the family split. Some folks moved down south, some stayed here. Our family is mostly from this area. Like, I don't know how many generations, Deacon Jerome, you can maybe do the math, but we have a lot of generations that have been here in Massachusetts. I think I follow the family tree, so I know since the early 1900s, my great grandparents have been settled here in Massachusetts. So we have a big family. And that's always holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, we're all Easter, like all of the holidays. It was always important for us to get together as a family. And we've continued to make that um, continue. I would say that now everybody's getting older. So Thanksgiving maybe is not like everybody will kind of stay in their own homes, but make Christmas be the big thing. Like it's a lot of work. You get older, like we cook a lot of food, you know. So you get older and it's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't cook a turkey and a roast beef and a ham and like we all go out big. And I would also say that we tend to bring a lot of other families into the fold too. So, we make friends. There's people that say, "Oh, that's my cousin." We're not cousin by blood, but still that's my cousin, you know. And they all come over and we Deacon Jerome, you can go into it.
Yeah, well, I was getting ready to say,
Yeah.
I segue. I first start by saying this, if those of you who don't know, Sister Annette is not only my sister in spirit, but she's also my actual sister. So we go. So when she speaks and she said I can speak to it, she basically said it all. But what I will add is that part, that last part that you just touched on, we invite other people to the fold. See, that's been a thing. See, it wasn't just us and our family. All right. She just told you how much family there was. It was anybody related to the family. We had friends that were like family. You know what I mean? And that continues to this day in that spirit. Now, what it has done is because, like Annette said, that generation has gotten older where, my mother, all the different aunts that would put things on, has transitioned into now the next generation, which is me. Usually my house is the house now. And that's where everybody congregates. And they know, if nothing else, if you're not doing anything else, you can go over there. And there's no invitation needed. If you know about it and you know your friend, like family or family, it's done. And we invite new people. As a matter of fact, I think I just invited somebody from the church today. Say, if you're spending it alone, because I can tell you, it's a joyous time for me, but I want to tell you this one experience. I did have a friend who seen that about my family, and that upset me deeply, and I understood it. It took me a minute, but I understood it. I didn't understand why they were acting the way they were acting, but then I understood after a while that their family wasn't like that. Their family was distant. They still kept in touch, but they didn't do things like that. And that being around that highlighted. So every time I invited them, when I knew they weren't doing anything, they still wouldn't want to come. They came that one time, and that's what did it for them. And it was just rubbing salt in the wound. I didn't understand it at first, and I feel sorry for that because I felt bad that I didn't recognize it from the start. But being a career public servant and working in the field I worked in, I learned this time of the season can be hard on families and individuals. Pastor?
Yeah.
Probably speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, really just, moves us into the next part of the conversation that I wanted to have was just that. Years ago, I did a radio station for another friend here in the Boston area, and she invited me in to come and talk around the week of Thanksgiving. And we spent our hour together talking about the holiday. And her question to me was, what are people supposed to do who don't want to do the family thing? What are people supposed to do when, as Dr. Wendy said, there's an expectation and even pressure applied, for them to show up and to be at the table and to put on a happy face and to be present when perhaps they don't want to do that. And, my response to her was that it's everybody's holiday. It's your Thanksgiving. It's my Thanksgiving too. It's everybody's holiday, and everybody gets to decide how they want to spend it without pressure, right? Easier said than done, I realize, because in some families, there's significant pressure to show up, as Annette shared, in your family, it was like you did not show up, right? Grandma called everybody together, everybody showed up for that. It was understood you were expected to be there. And so there are still families that operate that way, but we still have individuals, that are struggling this time of year, that for them the holiday doesn't feel holiday-ish. For some people, it's whether or not I have a significant other or not. It's whether or not, maybe someone passed away in the family during that season, or maybe there was some other significant loss in their life during that season, or maybe it's just where they are mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so that's the next part of the conversation that I really want to have is how do we support people, those who have those expectations, as well as those who say, you know what, that all sounds great, but I'm not coming, or I'm not in a good place with so-and-so. So if they're going to be there, I'm not coming, right? Because things like that really do happen. I've had plenty of people talk to me about, relatives they don't want to spend a holiday with. And because people don't want to be made to choose, it's like, you can come and get along for that one day. And some people say, you know what, Pastor Traci, I don't want to fake it. I don't want to get along for one day. And then we go back to not getting along, the minute the clock strikes 12:01. So let's talk about that. I'm curious, to hear your hearts and your thoughts about what do we do?
Well, Pastor, there was another part, I believe, that I experienced in that, where this time of the year, sometimes people, it might hurt them to be in that space, to the core.
Mhm.
Because in the case I speak of, this individual didn't want, wanted it. They wanted to have family, but they wanted it in their family. You know what I mean? And that brought a pain that I feel now, you know what I mean? And I feel for them, you know what I mean? Because I can't imagine how that feels to want to be family and not feel like you have family. So, and that's why I would never begrudge anybody. I always invite people. If I believe, oh, you're spending alone, there's plenty of people that pop up every year. We meet new people, you know what I mean? And they have a good time and we welcome them in the room, you know what I mean? But the other aspect of that is that the ones that take it even harder, I can't tell you that this time of the year, how bad this makes people feel to the point of, destruction, and it's bad, but it's real this time of the year. I've experienced many calls this time of the season, and I do not wish to really bring that darkness into this season, but it's reality for us. You know what I mean? There's somebody out there that is suffering in silence. You know what I mean? This time of the year really makes it hard. You know what I mean? And so that's how it can show up. And I just implore people to, if you recognize that about somebody, invite them into the home for a meal. I think, or just reach out to them and make sure they're okay. Because that might be all it takes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To avoid a tragedy.
Yes. Well, thank you, Deacon. We're going to head that way toward the end of the conversation when we talk a little bit about what do we do? How do we help? So yeah, but absolutely. And we're going to give out some information as well. So go next.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, how do we help? Like, I mean, there is, the like reaching out and checking up on people, but at the same time, it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Like if they don't want to come, like you said, like I just wanted to be home. I just wanted to be, like if they don't want to come, it's like you can't force them, but at the same time, be understanding, pray for them, pray with them, reach out, check on them maybe the next day after and say, hey, like I have a friend who's actually going to be laid up in bed because she's going to be having an operation next week. So she's not even going to be able, and she lives alone. So I said, you know what, I'll bring you a plate, like I know you can't get out. It's Mary Jane, right? I know you can't get out, but the next day after, I'll bring you a plate. And so maybe it's just doing that for someone. It could be just as simple as that,
Absolutely. I love that idea. One of my sisters said to me, my oldest sister said to me, if you're not going to come, then at least come pick up this, and this. I'll put together, a container of things for you. Come pick them up so that at least you can have all your favorites and all the things that we're all going to be participating And so I love that too. And I love
Mhm.
what you said, Sister Annette. I'll bring you a plate because that's twofold. I get to check on you, but it also gives us an opportunity to be together a little bit
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
with that person for the holiday. Dr. Wendy?
No, I think I agree with everything. Um, I think that just the acknowledgement and being aware that this goes on this time of year. And um, I think so, because sometimes we can just as a society get caught up in our own world that we may not even realize or recognize that, that there's so many other things going on with other people, whether a person chooses to be alone or whether they want to and don't know how to be with other people. You know what I'm saying? And I think Deacon Jerome was, alluding to that. Somebody just says, I want family, but I don't have family. And then I want my own. Being in yours is awkward
Mm-hmm.
because I want my own. And I think a person has to evolve and work through their stuff in order to be able to be accepting and be thankful for the opportunities, you know what I'm saying? Because we all know, and I think you all started out talking about it, you know, family's just not blood. You know what I'm saying? Our church family or friends that, because my children, they call everybody auntie this and auntie, and that gets to be family. And so I think in society, we don't talk about it. I think there's some realities, but I don't think we really talk about how are we grateful and how do we work through our own feelings of where we are in it. Because someone might say, hey, you know what? I do want to be with somebody, and the invitation is open and they accept it. And then someone else may not be ready for whatever the reason to accept that. And us being understanding of all of that and being aware of it, because that's why this conversation is helpful. Because, I know it's someone out there who's they're straddling the fence or trying to figure out where do they lie in this whole thing. And then it can open up for, someone else to say to them, you know what, it's okay that you don't have family, but family looks like this. Or if you choose to be alone, what does that look like? Or if we are taking a plate to somebody or just sending them a text message saying, thinking of you today, and knowing you're home alone or whatever. So because I think I was in that place. I had to evolve, like I stated earlier, and how I really felt about it. I wanted my own family in Minnesota, but my family wasn't in Minnesota. So how do I accept, the family that God had provided for me and embrace that and then really be okay? And I think it was a Thanksgiving that I spent by myself because I chose to just rest. It was a time to just rest. There's no expectation, there's no cooking, no this. And a friend did bring me a plate. So, it's just where people are. But I think overall, just being accepting and being aware that there's so many different scenarios and people, and that just because we've done something a certain way, other people may think differently, or their experiences may be different.
I love that you said that because as you were speaking, I was taking some notes and thinking to myself, that's sort of my heart concerning the matter that we have to know that someone else's way of doing it isn't wrong, it's their way, right? I think sometimes we get so um insular in our world that we think everybody does it the way that we do it. And when they don't do it the way that we do it, there's something wrong with it, that everybody's dynamic and their family dynamic looks like ours. And that's absolutely not true. And in that, I think we have to give people permission to do it their way without the added pressure, right, of feeling like, no, it has to look like this, or it's not the holiday if it doesn't look like that. It is their holiday, however they choose to spend it. But I think, to your point, taking the pressure off of making people feel like there's some onus on them to show up in a space that they perhaps don't want to be in, or with people they perhaps don't want to be with, is really part of solving some of what challenges folks. Is just taking the pressure off. As a society, we definitely put pressure on people for specific things. And one of them is, If you're not with someone else or with a group of people, there's something wrong. Maybe there's nothing wrong. Maybe there is, but maybe there isn't. And giving people permission to make the decision for themselves, right? What they want to do, and then supporting them in their decision. And so I think that is so absolutely important to think about. And I love the idea of including people. Some churches, Wellspring will get there, do a Thanksgiving dinner. That happens maybe the Wednesday before. And so that anyone who wants to be a part of a larger celebration gets to come and be a part of that larger celebration. Some churches actually do it on Thanksgiving Day. I love that idea, creating a space where people can come together if they don't have family that they're going to be with or don't want to be with, or can't travel to, that they have someplace to go with their church family and have an amazing dinner and an amazing Thanksgiving celebration. I love that idea. I love that idea. I've seen it done in some churches, and I think it's awesome because it does create space for people to have that together time if that's what they want. But I think giving them permission to make the decision for themselves and not taking that away by putting our own thoughts and feelings on it is really important, because sometimes when people say, oh, you can't be alone, it's not about you being alone, it's about how that makes them feel. Right? It's kind of like when somebody says you don't cry. Well, it's not about them crying. It's about how their crying makes you feel and your inability to handle it, right? Or to be comfortable with it. And I think we have to learn to be comfortable in this society and in our culture. We have to learn how to be comfortable with people's decisions, their feelings, their emotions, their responses. We have to learn how to be more comfortable, and their silence. We have to really learn how to be comfortable with silence. I think we feel like we need to fill the air all the time when we're in the presence of other people. And to me, real comfort, real relationship is when I can be in the company of someone I love, regardless of whether it's a friend or a relationship, and we can be silent, and silence is comfortable. When silence is comfortable, we're on to something, because for as extroverted as I am, I definitely have introvert propensities, and I can want to be with you, but maybe not talking in the moment. Doesn't mean I don't want to be there, it just means I'm in my own space. And when that's comfortable, that's a good place to be. That's a really, really good place to be. So Dr. Wendy, you are a mental health clinician, and so I would love it if you would talk to us a little bit about what are some of the things that are helpful for people, this time of year. And not just this time of year, because I don't want to put the emphasis on the holidays, because, life happens before and after. And during. And so what are some of the things that we should be looking out for? What are some of the things that we should be listening for as it relates to the people that are closest to us?
Okay. Well, in the field they call, and this terminology, is seasonal. They say seasonal depression, and it brings about seasonal, meaning there's a situation or something that is going on, and it only happens temporarily. And most of the time we know that situations and life happens. Anything could bring about a depressive feeling, or feeling isolated. And usually during this time of year, we talked about people making choices. But there's another thing when you know the person and they are not wanting to do the things that they normally would do or like to do. And meaning, they don't find enjoyment where they would find enjoyment hanging out, and really being around other people, the isolation. And sometimes it could even come in negative self-talk. And their whole countenance may sometimes change, where you notice that the glow or their eyes, you know what I'm saying, don't have that glow or something like that. And you could really tell, especially those individuals that you're around more often. But then sometimes there are things that people try to cover up, and so it may be they avoid conversations. They may avoid answering the phone. They're not responding back to you, or conversations they tend to avoid about getting together or doing something that you know that they once enjoyed. Now, a lot of times I say there is a thin line because we know that as we evolve and grow, as we just talked about, sometimes we make choices based on our own lives that we want to do something different. But what we're talking about is those instances where you know emphatically that this person is changing. They have changed based on what's going on. We like to say whether it's a holiday or something. But also you have to realize too, something to be aware of is looking at the grief and loss. This time of year brings about the feelings of grief even more, because people tend to grieve the loss of a loved one, someone that was near and dear to them, or that this time of year where things used to be one way, they grieve it being another way. And as the life changes and shifts, our situations and circumstance change and shift. So just being mindful of all those things, a person changing, and most of the time, things that they used to enjoy, that it's just like, I don't want to do it. The whole feeling down, and you can discern and differentiate when it's something a little different than just the norm, and just being mindful of those things, because a lot of times when people are in those states of being, they don't even know how to get out. They don't know what to do. And even, and it will continue. Sometimes it just adds on, and then life, and then you're pressing through trying to just make it day in and day out. So
Right.
those are some of the things that we need to be mindful of, especially this time of year. And then sometimes when there's not a whole lot of sunlight out, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a little bit more cloudy. And so there may be other things that trigger individuals. But again, if you have that relationship with them, where you can openly talk to them about it or ask questions if you feel comfortable, and asking them, are they open to talking about you've noticed? And one thing that I would say that I always talk to people about is, if you notice something, I think as a people, we tend not to always not know what to say, or we're trying to figure it out sometime. But sometimes, even if you were to show that you care,
Yeah.
that opens the door. And however that looks with that individual, it could be a text message, it could be a smile, it could be a gesture, just say, give them a smile and just say, oh, I noticed you're not smiling today. You know what I'm saying? Is something on your mind? Just something small. And those can be ways to open that person up that they want to talk about. And then it gives you an opportunity to be able to lift their spirits, or even sometimes just be that listening ear. Sometimes people don't want you to fix it. They just want you to listen, and show that you care. That's what most people want, is for a person to show that they care. So I know I said a lot, Pastor Traci, but that's
Good.
kind of the stuff that, being mindful. If nothing else, don't get so caught up in our own worlds that we miss it. That we say, oh, I don't want to be in somebody else's business or whatever. And sometimes it's the simplest, smallest things that we know that we can do to bring about a change.
Right. Absolutely. 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 I love that.
Great observation.
Right, just asking questions, and not in an invasive way, but I'm checking on you. I think when we are authentic in our caring of other people, they know the difference between, as you said, when we're being authentic versus when we're just being nosy. And so I think that, to your point, just being able to be authentic and authentically ask the questions, and then give space for people to share or not share. Sometimes one of my favorite things is that we just need to have a ministry of presence. We just need to be able to be comfortable being in someone's presence, whether they're sharing information with us or not. Sometimes people just want you to be present with them. Sometimes they just want you to hear them. Like you said, they don't want you to fix it. I think we have such a propensity to have answers for everything, or feel like we have to have answers for everything. We don't. You know what? And even if they're if they're answers, and they might be good ones. They might be good for you. It doesn't mean it's going to be good for someone else. I think we have a tendency to start, making it about us and what we want and what we think or how we feel. But you know what? Sometimes that's not even necessary. Sometimes it's just a matter of listening and even asking the question, what, would you like me to weigh in on this? Or what, are you just venting? Because sometimes people just want to vent. They just want to get it out. They just want to feel like somebody heard them, and they don't need any answers. And certainly answers that look like or sound like we're telling them what to do. Well, you just need to go with your grandmother and, be, oh, no, I don't really need you to tell me what to do. I might just want you to hear me. And so I think I love that. I think if we can be more intentional about that part, then, what we might help more people if we were just willing to be intentional in our listening to hear and not to respond, listening not to have all the answers because you don't have them. You don't even have them for your own life. None of us do, right? They're all a work in progress. But just listening and allowing people to share their heart and being present with them while they do that. I love that. We don't really have that much time left because, as you all know, an hour goes by really quickly. But for those of you that are holiday planners, I would love for you to give some advice to our listening audience about how to plan the holiday. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what my older sister does because she's the person who typically hosts in my family. Although for the last couple of years it's looked a little different, but she's the person who typically hosts. So I'll share with you a little bit at the end about what she does. But I want to know how those of you that host, how are you making it all happen so that the stuffing and the creme and the string beans and the mashed potatoes and the roast beef and the turkey and all that stuff is hot at the same time, and who's cooking all of these things, and how do you coordinate that part so you don't get 4 bowls of corn pudding and 6 sweet potato pies and no pumpkin pie for people like me who only like pumpkin pie. I don't eat sweet potato pie, and people are like, oh, you don't eat sweet potato pie? No, I like pumpkin pie. But I usually have to buy one because nobody ever makes them. It's not a thing. People are like, what? So I want to hear. Tell me all about how you're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, so for our family, everybody has their specialties, So mom now she's the matriarch. She does all the meat. So if we're doing lamb, turkey, ham, whatever, she does all that. I do a lot of the sides and the baking. I don't know. I got elected baking. Well, some of the things that I do for planning is I'd make stuff as much as I can ahead of time and freeze it. So if it's something like you're doing greens, right? That's a heavy lift because you got to clean them and they take a while to cook and you got to cut them and da 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 da. So do as much as you can that can be frozen ahead of time. And that way when it's that day, you pull it out, you thaw it out, blah, blah, blah. The meats, you can't really do that. You got to do those the same day. So it's all about timing, So we're up, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning putting turkeys in the oven. You just have to know you've been doing it long enough. You know how to time things. You know how long it's going to take to get the turkey done. And then the next thing after that, you got to get the other meat in, whatever other meat you're cooking. And, you just know how to time it. You cook, you prep stuff ahead of time, cut as much as you can up ahead of time. So then on that day, when it's time to cook some of the stuff, it's already pre-cut and prepared, and you just have to pull it together. Season all your stuff ahead of time. You don't want to be so there's a lot of work that goes up front. Make lists so you don't forget stuff. We're always running back out to the store because somebody forgot something,
Yeah, that's not a thing, especially when you can't find one store open on Thanksgiving Day for that thing you're looking for, right? I
Right.
remember being in the car with somebody last year going around looking for one thing, and we
Oh,
went to the
yes,
same
I
store
remember
and
that.
everything was
Went to
closed.
about 5
I'm
different
like,
stores
good
to
God,
find sterno.
forget it.
I remember that. But yeah, so you have to buy stuff in advance. Start early, make your lists so you don't forget things. Stock up. That's the kind of
Pastor
stuff.
Wendy, what are you going to do? What, guys, you're a
Well,
hostess at your house.
well,
Jerome,
and
get
when I
out of your
have,
homes.
what we do, because we don't have, and I didn't say this, I think other people have large families. My mother is an only child. My dad was an only child. Um, my parents only had 4 kids together. It's growing now because, my siblings, we have children and everything. However, our family wasn't that large. So we always had a menu, and my grandmother, when she was living, she would say, these are the things, that I'm cooking. And then will you cook this? She delegated. And so now this year, mom came up with the menu, and my little niece, who's 7, they came up with the menu, and we ordered the meat because wisdom in this age says, yeah, I think we're going to order. The meat. So I've already ordered the turkey, brisket, ham, all of that is ordered. I'll go and pick that up on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And then so my sisters, we're all have assignments. So mine is the macaroni and cheese and the sweet potato casserole. And mom say, make sure you put the pecans on top. I said, of course. And my daughter is doing the dressing, and my youngest she's a baker, so she's going to bake some pecan pie and probably a few other desserts. But yeah, pretty much everybody has an assignment, so it doesn't seem like such a heavy lift doing that. But I was just making a list. So if people come to the house, you got to have all the paper products, all the everything. Make sure, you know what I'm saying, people going out of bathrooms. I mean, just everything, we have enough seating and things like that, and pulling out the table and the chairs and all of those things. So I do lists as well. Like, and that's it. You gotta do the list. So I have the list to make sure those things are done. But really delegating the activity, since my grandmother is no longer living, because she did most of it because she loved to and she wanted to. She did that same thing, and then she was cooking this, freezing that, cooking weeks in advance, and had everything. And you really didn't have to cook anything because she wanted to do it all. But yeah, in my seasoned age, I'm not just feeling doing it all. I'm just really not. So yeah. No, that doesn't even sound right. Do it all. Oh my goodness. No, so yeah, I'll just do the 2 things, and yeah, we're gonna have a great time. And we have quite a few kids now, so I think, that's another thing, is making sure that the food is friendly for kids. My brother has young ones, and and my grandchildren. So that's different. And I have to say, we hadn't experienced that before. So we have quite a few little ones. And it's only, I want to say 7 adults, or 8, and the rest are kids. So that's something new for us. And so making sure that, I ordered stuff that I knew, the meat, what I'm saying? We did drumettes for the kids, so stuff like that. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I will say, my oldest sister does exactly the same thing you both talked about. It's the list. On her refrigerator, she has, one of those calendars that is, there's it's just already set up with spaces, and she has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Monday, she's doing all of these things. On Tuesday, all of these things. And on Wednesday, she's doing all of these things. And then she'll usually have a half line that says Thursday morning. And then she has an outline for what's happening Thursday morning. And I promise you, if you go over her house, you will see stuff crossed off as she's working on it, because it's like, check, I got that done. Check, this is already happening. And, I mean, I think it's exciting. It's so exciting. Again, it's not something I want to do, but I think it's really, really exciting. I like showing up and supporting. I'm like the supportive help. I got turned around out the kitchen a few times last year, Thanksgiving, at Deacon Jerome's house from his mother, when I said, "Oh, can I help you?" And she's like, "What you can do is go have a seat and watch the movie," or whatever she said. But I love the holidays, but I also can appreciate the idea of when people don't feel that way. I'm not so focused on my own feelings about it that I can't understand when someone says, I don't feel that way at all. And I'm not trying to convince you to feel that way. That's the other thing I think we do sometimes. You don't love the holidays, we act like people speaking a foreign language. And it's like, they don't, and it's okay that they don't, and it's okay not to try to force it to be true for someone either. And so where are people reaching out for help if they decide they need help? Where are they reaching out for help? Dr. Wendy, where should they be calling?
Well, there are a number of places people can call, but this time of year, your local NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI always has every state has a NAMI, as well as local chapters. And you look them up, they have a list of various things you should do, being mindful of. In some states, they'll have a support group for this time of year. If you're alone and you're at home and you can connect with other people, they have text, chats that go on, email as well. So there are a number of resources out there, but every state's NAMI, NAMI, that's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they do a really good job across the country and making sure that people have the resources around, this time of year, and calling it, like I said, seasonal depression, or, situational or environmental, based on what's happening in your life at that particular time. And so you could reach out, and most of the things nowadays, if you want to talk to someone, you can. If you don't want to talk to someone, you don't have to, but there's always chat options, email options to answer any questions or provide the additional support you need in your local area.
I love that. Thank you so much. I actually put the number for NAMI in Massachusetts in the chat. It is 844-608-0442. And then the National Suicide Hotline is 988. It's just 3 numbers, 988. And that is national. You can call that number as well. If in fact you are in need of support or help. And then I also want to say that, and I don't want to speak for all the pastors in Boston. I don't think that I can, but I want to say of myself as a pastor that I am available. Many people look for faith-based help, right? They want spiritual help. They want spiritual support. And so as a spiritual leader, as a pastor, I want to also offer myself as support for anyone who needs someone to talk to, or or some support around who they might talk to. And again, you can reach out directly to Boston Praise Radio for my contact information. They will in fact put you in contact with me, whether you email them, whether you call them and leave a message, or call them and actually talk to someone. They will put you in contact with me. So we are down to just about 1.5 minutes. And so I want to say thank you to my special guest on today. Thank you, Deacon Jerome, as always, for sharing this space with me. Thank you, Dr. Wendy. Thank you, Annette, for coming and being present with us on this afternoon. This was a great conversation. I'm certain that it will help someone. We are asking God to bless those even now who may be struggling. We're asking him to lift up their countenance. I'm asking God to allow his spirit to reach those in need on today and in the next couple of weeks to come, that his Holy Spirit will find them, and that the Comforter would bring comfort to them, and that if you need support of any kind, that you will reach out to someone for that support. We are here for you, Wellspring Global Fellowship. Again, reach out to Boston Praise Radio and TV. You reach out to them and they will put you in contact with me. And if you're out of state and you're in the Mississippi area, we will certainly connect you with Dr. Wendy. So thank you all so much for spending this time with me. We'll see you on next week on Living Well with Boston Praise Radio and TV with Pastor Traci Jackson and Deacon Jerome Sampson. Thank you all so much. Have a good day and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was awesome.
It was really good.
Yes.
It's really good. Yeah. And I think we helped somebody.
I know it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you. I thought that